Good morning. We are continuing this morning looking at the Songs of Ascent. This morning we're going to be looking at the longest one, Psalm 132, and we're going to take 2 days to cover this. This morning we're just going to read verses 1 through 9, and then on Thursday we'll pick up at verse 10 and go through verse 18. So this morning let us read together Psalm 132 verses 1 through 9, the next Song of Ascent. Remember, O Lord, in David's favor, all the hardships he endured, how he swore to the Lord and vowed to the Mighty One of Jacob, I will not enter my house or get into my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids, until I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the Mighty One of Jacob. Behold, we heard of it in Ephrathah. We found it in the fields of Jaar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. Arise, O Lord, and go to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. Let your priests be clothed with righteousness, and let your saints shout for joy. So here are the first 9 verses. And what we notice here is it's a reflection on what occurred in David's life. Remember, O Lord, in David's favor, all the hardships he endured. And so naturally we can think of the trials he faced under King Saul, but that's not where the psalmist takes us. Instead, the psalmist links the hardships of David with David's desire that there be a temple for God. Here is the hardships that the psalmist wants us to think. And then, of course, the psalmist uses strong poetic language to discuss David's plight. I will not enter my house or get into my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids until I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the Mighty One of Jacob. Now, of course, we cannot take this literalistically. This is poetic language for saying David had no rest. He was devoted. He had a singular focus. He wanted the Lord to have a temple in Jerusalem. This was his great desire. And we read about this, of course, in 2 Samuel. And of course, as we know, the Lord said to David that he would not be the one to build the temple. That was to Solomon. And so David, faithful to his desire, stored up all that was necessary for the building of the temple, so that when Solomon came to power, he would have the resources. Here was David's singular focus. Though he would not be the one to build the temple, he would make sure that his son was able to. And the poet records this, and think of the pilgrims as they sung this on the way to Jerusalem, as they sung it approaching the temple, looking at the temple. Think of it in Ezra's day, as it was sung at the rebuilt temple, or in Jesus' day, as it was sung as they approached the temple. Oh, remember the hardships of David, how he was so devoted to the Lord that he desired to build a beautiful temple for the Lord. The Lord was not lacking. The Lord had his tabernacle, as he told David. But David, in his devotion to God, wanted to give more. What a beautiful illustration for the Christian life. Oh, if we look at our lives, we can say how little we have to offer the Lord. And yet, is it not our heart's desire? Is it not our heart's desire every day to say, "Oh Lord, have it all. Use me for your glory. Use me so that the world sees Christ being magnified in my actions and in my words." And this is what the poet here is recording. And how far did it reach? Well, he tells us in verses 6 through 7, we heard it in Ephrathah. Now, Ephrathah was David's home region. We found it in the fields of Jaar. What is that referring to? Well, of course, it's referring to the time where the Ark of the Covenant stayed, but for a while. until they properly brought it to Jerusalem. And so it says, let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. The pilgrims are to be inspired by David's devotion to the Lord. Just as David was singular focused in his worship, so should all the pilgrims, so should all of God's people. And so let us go together to worship. Here is what our desire should be, and many have expressed it, especially in these times of uncertainty. Many have expressed the desire for coming together for corporate worship. This is good. This is pleasing to the Lord. And so rightly we should pray. And rightly many churches have petitioned our leaders. And continue in your prayers. Continue in your steadfastness. Continue in your family worship. Waiting for the Lord. Waiting for the Lord at his time to say, come. Come and worship me. Oh, what a glorious time that will be. And we should be like the pilgrims. Be like the pilgrims as they reflected on the hardships and struggles of David as he's had a singular focus, the corporate worship of God. Oh, may it be so for us. And of course, then he finishes, let your priests be clothed with righteousness, and let your saints shout for joy. So here is the first half of this psalm, and notice how it ends. David, who has a singular focus, desired the temple, and all the pilgrims are encouraged to have the same singular focus. Let us go and worship the Lord, and let us worship him in joy. Oh, may that be the desire of our hearts. May that be the longing of our souls. Let us go together to worship the Lord. And let us do so joyfully, knowing that when he calls us together, it is done according to his will and for his purpose. May the Lord bless you as you serve him today.